Hello and welcome to Filling the Sink, a podcast from Catalan News. My name's Beth Cohen, and today we'll be talking about Catalan cinema. The Goya Awards, held last Saturday, the 8th of February, were a testimony to the rising success of Catalan cinema, with prizes, applause, and a feeling that Catalonia is one of the driving forces of world-class film production. Following the box office success and critical acclaim of Catalan films such as El 47 and Casa en Flames, this week on Filling the Sink, we put our finger on the pulse of modern Catalan cinema, looking back over its history and analysing future trends. To shed light on this exciting topic, I'm joined today by Lorcan Doherty. Hello, Lorcan.
Hello, Beth. It is an exciting topic, isn't it? And one quite close to your heart.
Yes, because as well as being a presenter, I'm actually also an actress. So
Amazing.
So I'm on home territory here. Okay, Lorcan, so everyone loves a good movie, and there have been some very, very good movies produced in Catalonia recently. But let's start by looking back over the history of Catalan cinema.
Well, Catalonia took to cinema very early. Back in 1897, which is the same time that the Lumiere brothers were active in France, the first fiction film in the history of Catalan and indeed Spanish cinema was shot not too far from here, outside a bar cafe in Sants. It was directed by a man called Fructuós Gelabert, and it's actually on YouTube. You can see it.
Yes, and it's only 1 minute long. It's a fight in a bar, and of course, it's silent. On the YouTube version, you can hear piano music, but of course, that would have been done live.
Yeah. No, it's amazing to see, as you say, watching a little bit of history. The early 20th century then was considered a bit of a golden age for Catalan cinema. That was cut short by the Spanish Civil War and subsequent Franco dictatorship. Obviously, filmmaking still continued to happen, but there was censorship, there were restrictions, one of which, for example, was that films had to be in Spanish only. You couldn't make films in Catalan. And
maybe now you could say we're in another golden age.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. 2024 was a record-breaking year. Over 700,000 people watched a film in Catalan, in cinemas here in Catalonia, over 1 million people across Spain. And to put that into context, these are unprecedented numbers, more than double the previous record, which was back in 2010. Film fans might remember that 2010 was the year that Pan Negra came out, Black Bread, which was the first film in Catalan to be put forward by the Spanish Academy for Oscars consideration in the Best International Feature Film category, or as it was known then, the Best Foreign Language Film. It wasn't actually selected by Hollywood in the end, but another big moment for Catalan cinema.
And another significant moment in this golden age was the Golden Bear for Alcaraz.
Yeah, just a few years ago, we actually did a podcast on Alcaraz, on Filling the Sink here. Carlos Simon's film won the Golden Bear, as you say, in Berlin. And this was a real watershed because for Catalan cinema to win such a prestigious international award was unprecedented. But while Alcaraz did very well in cinemas, especially considering, it's a slow-moving art house movie. I love it, by the way. You should see it if you haven't. But commercially, it has been well surpassed by the two films you mentioned earlier, The 47 and A House on Fire. Another difference is that while Alcaraz came away empty-handed from the Spanish Academy's Goya Awards, despite 11 nominations, this year, it was a very different story at the ceremony in Granada last weekend.
Oh yes, let's get on to the Goyas. Did you stay up and watch them?
I didn't watch them all. I think I'm just getting too old. These award ceremonies go on on a Saturday night. But I did. I watched the opening and I watched the start. I got a good flavour of it. And then I caught up on the rest the next morning.
And I was there with my popcorn for the whole thing. And it was the 39th edition of the Goya Awards.
Yes, and the night's most successful film was The 47. It won 5 cabezones, big heads, which is the nickname for these awards. It's got Goya's bust. The big story of the night was the fact that it won Best Film jointly with another film, Undercover. But yeah, The 47 was the big success story. We did a podcast on that too a few months back. I think it was in September. If you're not familiar with it, it tells the true story of Barcelona in 1978. A bus driver who hijacks a bus and drives it to the Torre Baró neighbourhood in protest at the lack of public transport there. The 47 being the bus route of the hijacked bus. And it being an award ceremony, many of the award winners pointed out that Article 47 of the Spanish Constitution is actually about the right to decent housing, which is one of the themes of the films. and also one of the big political issues going on right now.
So a very appropriate name. And another Catalan production, Saturn Return, won 3 awards.
Yeah, there was a lot of love in the room for Saturn Return, known in its original Spanish title as Segundo Premio. It's a true story as well about an indie band, well, fictionalised based on a true story kind of, about an indie band called Los Planetas, and they're from Granada, the host city for the awards. And incidentally, Saturn Return also won the Biznaga de Oro, which is the top prize at the Malaga Film Festival, best Spanish film last year. So another success for Catalan cinema. You know, it's a Catalan production with 2 Catalan directors.
And of course, the film Marco, about the life of fake Nazi concentration camp victim Enric Marco, won 2 awards, including Best Actor for the protagonist, Eduard Fernandez. It's not a Catalan production, but it is a Catalan subject, as Marco is from Barcelona. It's a great film, and we actually did a podcast about Enric Marco last week, which I can highly recommend.
Fascinating story. And I mean, what a year Eduard Fernandez had. You know, he won Best Actor, as you say, for Marco. And just a few weeks back at the Catalan Film Awards, the Gaudís, he won Best Actor for a different film for his role in The 47. So just an incredible year for him. But yeah, looking at the Goyas, of the 4 biggies, if you like, Best Film, Best Director, Best Actress and Best Actor, 3 went to Catalan films or actors. One of them joined, as we said.
And according to the Catalan Film Academy, Catalan cinema won 14 Goya Awards in total. Let's hear some of the footage from the big night.
Doncs un plot twist interessant que al final el que fa és repartir més alegria per més gent.
An interesting plot twist. That's how Marcel Barrena, director of The 47, described the decision to jointly award the Best Picture Goya to both his film and Undercover. In the end, it brings more happiness to more people, he says. We always thought one or the other would win, and it's ended up being both. The 47 took home 5 awards in total, including Best Supporting Actress for Clara Segura.
47 parla de l'arribada dels immigrants a finals dels 50 a Barcelona.
The 47 talks about immigrants arriving in Barcelona from other parts of Spain at the end of the 50s, Segura explains. It talks about how by the end of the 60s they still weren't integrated in the city. And, she says, you think, if we change the look a little, change the facial features of the people involved, we could be talking about issues today, like housing, gender equality and education.
Carme Vila, la Carmen, hizo una revolución más silenciosa enseñando a leer y escribir.
In her speech, Segura spoke of her character, Carmen Vila, who sparked a quiet revolution teaching people to read and write, teaching Catalan to girls and boys and to women who had not had educational opportunities.
Y no pueden hacernos olvidar que todos fuimos extranjeros en algún momento, que la tierra no nos pertenece y solo nos acompaña un rato mientras vivimos. Muchas gracias.
We can't forget that we were all foreigners once, Segura concludes. The earth does not belong to us, it only keeps us company for a short time while we're alive. Well, if you can't get philosophical during a winner's speech at a movie award ceremony, when can you?
Bueno, el viatge al segundo premio sí que és un viatge molt psicodèlic.
Paul Rodríguez describes the journey he's been on with his film Saturn Return as very psychedelic. We've had a lot of really emotional moments, he says, after picking up his Goya for Best Director, shared with the film's co-director, Isaki Lacuesta. Telling the true story of indie band Los Planetas, Saturn Return also took home awards for Best Editing and Best Sound.
La veritat és que no ho sé què té. De fet, si ho sapigués, ho repetiria.
The secret to the success of A House on Fire is a mystery to Eduard Sola, the winner of Best Original Screenplay. In fact, he says, if we know, let him know, so he can do it again. That's the thing about creativity. It's weird, Sola says. You end up in places you don't mean to, and you don't know how you got there. But in any case, I'm happy we ended up here, he says.
Bueno, sí, no, res més a dir d'Almodóvar, o sigui, ja està tot dit, no? Però...
Another Eduard, Edu Grau, won Best Cinematography for his work on The Room Next Door, the first feature film in English from legendary Spanish director Pedro Almodóvar, who he describes as a beautiful person with a good heart.
Una persona molt bonica. L'ESCAC és una escola sense igual que ha creat increïbles talents tècnics, directors del cinema català, espanyol i mundial.
Grau praised Catalonia's leading film school, ESCAC, a school without equal that has created incredible talents, technicians and directors in Catalan, Spanish and global cinema. I owe it everything, he says.
Thank you, Lorcan, for bringing us that report. This year's Goyas were a real milestone for Catalan cinema.
Yeah, and just to mention, we heard Clara Segura there talk about Carme Vila, and there are plans in the Torre Baró neighbourhood to name a street or square after Carme Vila and another street or square after her husband, Manuel Vital, the bus driver. So it shows the impact the film's had. But yeah, a great night for Catalan cinema. Particularly noteworthy, I think, that the Spanish Academy gave such recognition to The 47, a film in Catalan.
Of course, because a large part of cinema produced in Catalonia is actually in Spanish.
Yes, and in fact, it's only the second time that a Catalan language film has won the Best Picture at the Goyas, the first being Black Bread, which I mentioned earlier. And actually, there have been more English language winners at the Goyas than Catalan language winners, which I thought was interesting. Two of them directed by a Catalan director, Isabel Coixet.
Yes, The Secret Life of Words in 2005 and The Bookshop in 2017. She's actually one of my favourite directors, and I had a part in It Snows in Benidorm.
Wow, amazing.
To pinch Timothy Spall's bottom.
It's a great claim to fame.
Barcelona has an increasingly international presence in the film industry, and I guess there are several reasons why it's enjoying such success. I mean, perhaps the extension of the Catalan language means that it's now feasible to film world-class productions in Catalan. And there are also other factors which are attracting foreign producers. I think Catalonia is an inexpensive place to film compared to, for example, the United States or the United Kingdom. We also have top technical facilities here, great talent base, beautiful locations, and of course great weather, which means it's possible to film outside for a large part of the year.
That helps.
So lots of international producers are choosing to film their projects in Barcelona. And so, of course, as well as attracting talent, Barcelona is also producing talent.
Yeah, I mean, we heard at the end of the report from the Goyas there that the praise, the love for ESCAC, which is the Film and Audiovisual School of Catalonia, the Catalan Film School, basically. We heard that from cinematographer Edu Grau, who picked up an award at the Goyas. And, you know, so many people have come through there and are now working professionally at the absolute top of the industry. Probably the most famous alumnus is Bayona, of course. Hollywood director, you know, you might have seen Society of the Snow or A Monster Calls or The Impossible. I actually forgot to mention when we were talking about this new golden age of Catalan cinema, last year his film Society of the Snow was up for 2 Oscars. And also Robot Dreams was nominated too. That's a Catalan-produced animated film. They weren't successful in the night, but to have 3 nominations at the Oscars was another really significant step forward, I think, for Catalan cinema.
Now, Hollywood has the Oscars, Spain has the Goyas, but Catalonia has its own gala ceremony for Catalan cinema, the Gaudí Awards. This year they were held in January in Barcelona, and of course Catalan News was there to cover the event. We spoke to film directors Marcel Barrena and Juan Antonio Bayona.
But Barrena, of course, the director of The 47.
As well as Judith Collet, who's the president of the Catalan Film Academy. They told us about this historic year for Catalan cinema. Let's listen to those interviews.
Yes, it has been a very good year because before we had been in festivals, winning awards, and the Catalan cinema was very internationalized and it has a very good reputation, but now we have the audience also. It has been more than 1 million of viewers for Catalan films, for films in Catalan, that this is a very important issue, so I think it's a very, very good year. I hope next year will continue, and we have to continue doing good films to keep this audience.
Well, I think this is a very good year. You can feel the excitement that there's like 2 movies that have become like probably the biggest hits in Catalan. That's a record. That's one of the very big news from this year. And you can feel the excitement.
We changed the paradigm with these 2 movies, Flamas and El 47, because El 47 47 was number 1 in box office. It's the very first time in Spanish history that a Catalan film talked in Catalan, shot in Catalan, is number 1 in box office. So it's a change of paradigm in all the production terms possible. Now we can go to big platforms like Prime, Netflix, HBO, and Spanish networks and say, hey, we want to shoot it in Catalan because that's it's possible to make a huge impact and a big success. So it's a change of paradigm.
That was Marcel Barrena making himself heard over a bit of a racket at the Gaudí Awards and talking about this paradigm shift for films in Catalan.
Yeah, really interesting, I think, to hear Barrena's perspective there, because there's this bit of a positive feedback loop going on. You've got the commercial success of his film, The 47, and the other one we've mentioned, A House on Fire, which means bigger budgets now can be made available to Catalan language films in the future. That means they have, in turn, a better chance, in theory, of attracting a bigger audience. And I also get the sense that all the success is not luck, that it's designed. Because while researching for today's podcast, I was looking back at all the buzz around Alcaraz, for example, a couple of years ago. And one thing that was really interesting is Judith Colell from the Catalan Film Academy. She said back then, you know, she was obviously saying what a great achievement this is in Berlin, but the next step for Catalan films has to be to draw in bigger and bigger audiences. And look, that's exactly what we're seeing now, just a couple of years down the line.
Yep, and if you're interested in cinema and you happen to be in Barcelona, it's definitely worth visiting the Filmoteca. If you think that a biblioteca is for books, well, a filmoteca is for film. It's a film archive that has screening and exhibitions and so on.
Yeah, Catalonia is also home to loads of film festivals. There's actually one in my, hometown where I live here, Molins de Rey. But the big one is Sitges, which is held in mid-October. And it has an emphasis on horror and on fantasy. And it's an absolute world leader in those genres.
Yes, and I was particularly excited because this year at Sitges, Rich Flew, which is a film in which I have a small part as a journalist, surprisingly enough.
That's amazing.
Was premiered at the Sitges Film Festival.
That's so exciting. Were you there at the premiere and all that? Was there a red carpet?
There was a red carpet, and I have to say that I couldn't go.
Oh,
I couldn't go. I saw it in the cinema, and I was dubbed into Spanish. And I was like, no.
Like, I said those parts.
But a lot of my colleagues did go, and apparently it was a great night.
Very nice, very nice.
And of course, Sitges also has a great drama school, and it's interestingly the only town in Catalonia to have two cinemas that are over 100 years old and are still going today, which is the Casino Prado and El Retiro.
Yeah, all these things that we're talking about, schools, festivals, venues, cultural centres, I think that, it just shows that it's not just the films themselves, but there's this whole very healthy ecosystem around Catalan cinema at the minute.
And also international cinema. Obviously, we're focusing on Catalan cinema, but festivals like Sitges are very outward-looking, and they take a real global approach to programming. Okay, Lorcan, so if I want to watch some of these films, where can I find them?
Well, the ones we've been talking about, there are loads of them actually on Movistar Plus.
How appropriate.
Yeah. A House on Fire, Casa en Flames, is on Netflix. And then most of them, including the 47 or Saturn Return, are available to rent on various platforms. TV3, the Catalan public broadcaster, also has an archive of free films that you can watch in Catalan. Well, some are most are in Catalan, I think. But you can get English subtitles for some of them as well.
So grab your popcorn and appreciate some great Catalan cinema. It's time now for our Catalan phrase of the week. Lorcan, what do we have today?
I van ser feliços i van menjar anissos.
And they were happy and they ate aniseed sweets.
Exactly. It's basically, and they all lived happily ever after.
And aniseed balls, I remember this as a blast from the past. As a child, they were sort of little round, very hard things, the size of marbles, and you could do great damage with them if you put them in your slingshot. That sounds like a perfect ending for a film. And they all lived happily ever after.
I van ser feliços i van menjar anissos.
This week on Filling the Sink, we've been talking about Catalan cinema. Congratulations to all of the actors, directors, scriptwriters, and other artists whose work was recognised in the Goya and Gaudí Awards. And of course, thank you to Lorcan Doherty for joining me today.
Thanks, Beth. I have to check out some of your films now.
That's all we have time for today. Thanks for listening. Make sure to subscribe to Filling the Sink wherever you get your podcasts if you haven't done so already. We'll be back again next Saturday with another exciting episode of Filling the Sink. On behalf of all the team here at Catalan News, I'm Beth Cohen, wishing you a great weekend. Fins aviat. Hello.